We are.
Okay, are we ready in the front of the room?
Almost.
I hear R. Yes, okay, wonderful. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, June 14th, 2023, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. You can join today's board meeting via phone. Dial 971-254-3149. Conference ID 736-023-979#. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us by going online to tctvonline.com and click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute their phone. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to publiccomments@co.tillamook.or.us. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email publiccomments@co.tillamook.or.us by 12 p.m. on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners Office, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Do we have anyone signed up in the room, or has anyone registered online for public comment?
No, we do not.
Okay, perfect. All right, we have called the meeting to order, so we will welcome everyone who's with us and invite you to please sign the guest list if you have not done that yet. And then we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Yamamoto, will you lead us today?
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we do not have any public comments and no non-agenda items today, so we will move right into item number 5. Discussion and consideration of amendment number 3 to Intergovernmental Cooperative Agreement number 3962 with the Oregon Department of Forestry for uniform costs and expenses. Matt Kelly, Under Sheriff of the Sheriff's Office. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Commissioners. Before you today is, for your consideration, is an extension to our agreement with Oregon Department of Forestry. This is one of the mechanisms that help pay for the 3 forest deputies that covered the Tillamook State Forest. The other one is, I'm hoping to bring forward to you next week, is with the grant with the ATV Safety Committee, which makes up we're able to fund those 3 positions. It's one of our longest agreements or contracts with the state forestry. And it's essential because if we did not have this funding, those areas wouldn't get patrolled. They would just be by little to no proactive enforcement or response. It would be responding to incidents or calls in those areas. And that's all I have unless y'all have any questions.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner?
I don't have questions. I'm supportive of the program. I think it's a great program, and I'm glad that we can get funding for it. And I had the pleasure a long time ago of doing a ride-along with Dean Burdick and learning about what forest deputies do. When I worked for the paper, and I wrote some articles about illegal dumping in the forest, and it was really eye-opening to me about how much illegal activity goes on in the forest between dumping and illegal cutting and all kinds of things. So I'm glad that we can be out there.
Okay.
And I concur. This is an important aspect of what the Sheriff's Office does, and we appreciate that so much. It's amazing how much state forest land we really have in Tillamook County. It's a couple 100,000 acres, more than that actually. So a lot of area to patrol. Good things happen in our state forest. There's some bad things that happen in our state forest. So appreciate everything you do, and I'm in full support here.
Agreed. I mean, this is a contract that we absolutely have to have. That is just a huge piece of land, and I know from my time working at CARE with those experiencing homelessness that camping and illegal camping and all of the things that can go with that are another significant issue, and our deputies, along with our forest Forest Service folks end up becoming social workers out there as well. So having people out there is really crucial to safety. So in support, I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of amendment number 3 to intergovernmental cooperative agreement number 3962 with the Oregon Department of Forestry for uniform costs and expenses, I would move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, and we'll call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 6, discussion and consideration of modification number 1 to the Personal Services Agreement 22/23-015, number 6931 with Reed Group for Emergency and Natural Disaster Preparedness Community Assessment. Marlene Putman, Administrator, Health and Human Services. Good morning, Marlene.
Good morning. For once, a simple modification. It has basically like one little sentence, or not even a sentence, just a few words that modifies the term of this agreement from April 13th of 2023 to, from June 30th to August 31st of 2023. The background real quick. So the Reed Group is a firm that we work with to consult on, primarily for us, it's been community engagement and input. And as indicated, we're working on our emergency and natural disaster preparedness response. So we're gathering some community input, much like what we did during the pandemic, from hard-to-reach populations to make sure we have a response in place for public health around communicable disease, other types of natural disasters that may come up where we play a role. Some of this information has been gathered in some focus groups with the county emergency manager, so we're hoping to enhance that information by gathering some input from our key stakeholders and those hard-to-reach populations through this outreach effort. So again, we're just extending the time frame so we have a little more time to gather that input and put together a report. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Commissioners, any questions? No?
Nor I. This, for once you are right, Marlene, this is a simple one. So that's great. We appreciate you bringing these to us.
We'll take simple any
You
day. All right, then I
Thank
think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of modification number 1 to the Personal Services Agreement 2223-015, number 6931 with Reed Group for the Emergency and Natural Disaster Preparedness Community Assessment, I would move approval.
I second. Perfect. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, and we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 7. Discussion concerning a proposal for jurisdictional transfer of authority to the City of Bay City over county rights of way contained within the Bay City urban growth boundary and city limits. And we have Chris Laity, our Director of Public Works, this morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I've got the Manzanita on the screen, and the reason is that we have a variety of roads that are county-maintained or local access roads located within the city limits. As you can see in Manzanita, I brought this up because Lanita Avenue, which is the main road in Manzanita, used to be a county road, and subsequently we completed some improvements and it was turned over to Manzanita. We're proposing to do the same thing in the city of Bay City, where we take all this is initiated by County Public Works. Just say for Bay City, you can see a variety of county roads in orange that are located within the city limits of Bay City. In addition to that, it is in the urban growth boundary. We extend that out to include a few more county roads in addition to some local access roads. In blue are the fish-bearing streams. As you can see, they do cross through this process. So we engage with the other examples of recent jurisdictional transfers include 3rd Street here in Tillamook, as well as 12th Street here in Tillamook. So it's not an uncommon, it is uncommon, but we have gone through this process very recently with 12th Street. So we propose this. What this allows us to do is remove streets that are county maintained and local access roads and all the right of way located within Bay City, and give these over to the city to do and manage and completely have jurisdictional control over that. We did a little back and forth. They countered their last proposal, again, very high level, just to see if there was interest. Their last proposal essentially said is that they will take over everything located within the urban growth boundary, the streets, the right-of-ways, etc., the culverts, including the fish passage culverts there, with, as long as we pave, do an overlay, not bringing streets, not bringing sidewalks, not doing curb and gutter, as long as we pave the 2 local access roads that are out there. This would be this next year's summer. The asphalt cost associated with that is approximately equal to $125,000. That is approximately 1/10 of an annual budget for asphalt. There's significant, there's a drop, a chunk of money that would be dropped next summer. But long-term, these are roads that we would not have to maintain. Benefit to the community, because when storms hit or other things hit, we are taking care of other roads. The cities are already getting the call to maintain these type of roads. The city cannot take over ownership of roads out. They cannot take over jurisdictional control of the roads unless they're brought to a standard, and that's why the 2 roads in yellow are local access roads would be paved. The intent this week is to really bring this up as a first public presentation that this is what Public Works would like to do, and then formal documentation would follow in a subsequent Board of County Commissioners. With me today is Jasper Lind, and if you have any very specific questions, I'll turn the control of the screen over to him, and he can give a little bit more specific details if you have any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Just a moment. Mr. Clement, can you turn your camera off, please? We ask only those who are presenting to have cameras on. Thank you. Okay, Jasper, welcome.
Good morning, Commissioner. So as Director Lady had referenced, the footage share my screen with you. Okay. So the overall urban growth boundary for Bay City is outlined here in T. What we're proposing is a jurisdictional transfer over a significant area, specifically the roads that are within the city of Bay Cities, as well as the urban growth boundaries. We've had a handful of instances, even in the last year, when we had the windstorm come through in January. There was significant damage along Hobsonville Point Drive, and it knocked out power to the city itself for a pretty length of time. And the repairs to address this had to take place within the city limits on Hobsonville Drive, which required permitting from county, which of course we did posthumously. We wanted to see any repairs done as fast as possible. But it was one more moving piece within that equation that could have been more efficiently dealt with simply by the city directly interacting with UDP. Also, a few summers ago, the city paved a portion of Main Street and even a portion of 7th Street, assuming that they were city streets. Natural. The main street within city seems like a pretty natural street to be under city jurisdiction. But it turns out that 2 blocks of it are technically retained under county jurisdiction. So what we're proposing is essentially to clean up some of these lines, just to make it so that at the edge of the urban growth boundary, the public right-of-ways within that growth boundary as well as the city limits itself are under the city jurisdiction. And that includes the undeveloped right-of-ways that are out in the stuff, and one particular road as well, that are undeveloped within the urban growth boundary. This would not only give the city of Bay City a greater control over the method in which it develops, but it wouldn't have to reach out to us for any permitting for their water system, any further development for electrical, it just really kind of cleans up the lines on the one exception to that being this little tab of Alderbrook Loop Road. At the very southern edge, we would want to maintain that as a county road, considering it's part of a larger county road system in that area. Originally, one of the ideas we explored is that this particular property up here to the northeast of the city is a county-owned property, and it stands between two city-owned properties. But the city council for Bay City was reticent to take on that property as potential swap due to its historic use as a municipal landfill. Their counteroffer, as Director Randy had mentioned, was the paving of Baseline Road and Seattle Avenue within the urban growth boundary, just so that it is up to the standards that the city will be before jurisdictional authority be transferred. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer to the best of my ability.
Perfect, thank you, Jasper. Questions or comments, commissioners?
Well, as the liaison to the roads department, I went to the County Roads Advisory Committee meeting and where they discussed this, and it seems like a reasonable proposal to me to clean up just clean up the map in terms of the roads that the county is currently responsible for in city limits. Why wouldn't we want the city to be responsible for those? It's logical. And I asked about Baseline in Seattle that they want us to pave because that's expensive, as Chris mentioned, and if we were making that, and their local access road. So if we were making that commitment on an ongoing basis, I would have to say no. But that's a one-time deal. They want us to pave it in order to take it over, and thereafter it'll be their responsibility, but they're not going to take over the responsibility of a road that's not in great shape, which is reasonable. So I think this is a good idea.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, this gets very complicated. It does. I had no idea that we did have responsibility for roads in city limits. I think this is a reasonable ask. I do have one question. Well, I've got a couple questions. So as these local access roads or county-owned roads, as they leave the city limits, at that point, the county remains responsible for these roads. Hope I'm correct there.
That is correct. So even today, as the roads that the city limits, there is a transition from the county road to a city road. We're proposing that be modified so that the transition from the county into the urban growth boundary, that would be the defining line. And we have worked with the city of Bay City in the past as far as sometimes the speed limit changes as it crosses over. So we'll have a advanced speed and they'll actually put a speed limit sign. So in the fringe boundaries, that takes place. Some of these make sense if you think of Highway 101 through downtown Tillamook. You have, a different ownership of different jurisdiction. Some of these they're carryovers from a long time ago. The right-of-way is interesting. When 101 vacated, they did a realignment. There's some right-of-way in there that possibly is county right-of-way that they want to put a sign in. So not only vacating the physical roads and the right-of-way that those roads lie on, but if there are remnant pieces of right-of-way that's out there, which we just found out about possibly a county having right-of-way, we're just cleaning the slate and say all county rights-of-way within the urban growth boundary become the cities.
Thank you for that.
I would like to point out also one of the odd situations that's created by the city limits versus the urban growth boundary is Dooley Avenue right here. So it turns out that the southbound lane of Dooley Avenue is currently a city street, and the northbound lane of Dooley Avenue is a county road.
Right.
And that's because the actual city limits run down the center line of Dooley. So this including of the urban growth boundary would resolve this odd circumstance where there's two jurisdictional authorities, each over a separate lane on a single road.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Yeah, it is. Well, I'm in full support here. Let's get this cleaned up as best we can at this point.
Yeah, and I would agree. You know, I know Commissioner Bell brought up, it seems like a lot of money to pay to get rid of them, but we will be paying that amount of money repeatedly if we don't make this transfer. So I think that it makes sense just to clean it up. Bay City should have control of their own streets inside their city so that they can maintain them as they wish. So I'm in support. Yes.
So we will prepare the legal documentations, run through county council, run through the city of Bay City, their county council for approval. We are the ones proposing this to the city, so we would sign first and then the city council would sign second.
Perfect, thank you.
So
County Council?
we'll start that process.
And that process is a little bit more complicated than that, as many times these are. It requires notice of being published in the paper and posted and a hearing. So you all feel good about it, and then you prepare an order that says we'll transfer it and the city has to accept it. But, so there is a public process that you need to abide by to get to, ultimately, if you decide this is what you want to do, you gotta go through that process.
Okay, perfect. So this is step one, which would explain why it is a discussion today rather than a discussion and consideration, since there is, at this point, we're giving you consensus to say go forward and start the process. So, okay. If there's nothing else on that, Commissioners, since it is simply discussion, we do not need a vote. And we would move on to item number 8, discussion and consideration of amendment. Oh, so thank you, Chris. Is this? Oh, it's yours too. Okay, discussion and consideration of amendment number 4 to a local agency emergency relief program agreement number 31443 with State of Oregon Department of Transportation to update project costs for the Dry Creek Bridge and Crystal Creek Bridge, Miami Foley Road project. Chris Laity.
So this, the two bridges on Miami Foley, as the project has advanced, we are now, the ODOT is about ready to put this out for a bid. They need to advertise prior to September 30th for next year's construction. September 30th is the federal fiscal year. To do that, because the plans are effectively complete, they have much better knowledge on what the actual cost would be. There's also relatively recent bid results. And what you'll see here is the total project cost for 2 bridges has increased from $3.3 million to $4.6 million. As such, the county match also increases, and we pay 10.27% of the total cost. So this amendment it really cleans up with more information or better information on what the cost will be. That's not to say that will be the actual cost. It still needs to be bid. But this is the best information that we have. And the longer it's delayed, the more expensive this gets.
Yes, it does. Thank you. Questions or comments, Commissioners?
So, Chris, are these still from the 2015 storm?
Yes, using federal emergency relief money.
That's what I thought. So can you estimate what you just said? The longer the delay, the more expensive it is. Can you remember? Could you estimate what it would have cost? I mean, we'll all just be mad if you know the answer, but still. But I'd be fascinated to know, what would this have cost if we could have done it in a timely way?
This is speculating, but if we were to build this in 2017, without pulling the calculator or anything like that, I would venture to guess this is about $2.5 million. And these are 2 bridges. There is a 3rd bridge that's tied to this package, and that's we're going through the process trying to reduce the cost on that one. So there's yet another bridge out there that will be coming up with another amendment. But yeah, this one, 4.6, probably was 2.5 million if it was to be built in 2017.
Gotcha.
2017 would have been the earliest that we could have built something from the 2015-16 event.
I understand. And the delay is just the federal process of FEMA funding.
It is an agreement between ODOT and Federal Highway, and I would let ODOT speak to any delay associated with this.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it.
It's just the wheels of government turn slowly, as I always say. This is just one more illustration of that, and the larger the government, the slower the wheels. So this one being state and federal. Just doesn't happen. So Commissioner, questions or comments?
Chris, and you may not know the answer to this. This is kind of an off-the-wall question, but we continue to talk about the No Fisheries FEMA buyout and what might happen when that is approved and implemented. And so this is disaster relief funding. At least that's the way I read it, from the 2015 storm. If, let's say something happened to this today, well, let's say next year, and the implementation of the No Fisheries FEMA buyout went into effect, and Tillamook County decided not to abide by that buyout. Would that mean that these bridges in the future would not be covered by FEMA because they would refuse disaster relief recovery funding?
So these particular bridges would be required, with regards to the FEMA buyout, they would be required to be converted to, because they're fish passage. So the culverts would become bridges because state law.
Right.
And the fish passage. So these bridges are not covered by FEMA. These are on federal aid routes. So FEMA is really out of the equation when we come to these two bridges and one on Bay Ocean. So that's why this is not a FEMA emergency relief. This is a federal highway emergency relief.
Interesting.
But regardless, state law requires us to convert those culverts to fish bearing, to fish passage, and that is upsizing these culverts to bridges, just to comply with the state law.
You're the man. You know the answers. That's great. Appreciate that very much.
I don't like the answers, but they're the answers.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think we've had pretty robust discussion, so I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of amendment number 04 to a local agency emergency relief program agreement number 31443 with the State of Oregon Department of Transportation to update project costs for the Dry Creek Bridge and Crystal Creek Bridge, Miami Foley Road project. I would move approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, number 9, discussion and consideration of an order in the matter of the appointment of a member to the Tillamook County Solid Waste Advisory Committee. We have David McCall, our Solid Waste Program Manager. Good morning, David.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners.
Look out behind you, Dave.
I was just thinking that was an amazing hairdo that he had going on today.
Look out behind you.
So the Solid Waste Advisory Committee is appointed by the Board of Commissioners to advise and oversee the Solid Waste Department on all its activities and programs. It has traditionally been a very active committee that really delves deep into a lot of issues and works very hard. It is composed, or should be composed of 9 members, and 7 of those 9 members represent specific industry areas. So 2 of them are public large, but the others represent specific focus groups. And when Julian McCaskey moved to Scotland, the position he had filled representing the recycling industry and transfer station activities became vacant. And it has been vacant for quite some time now, but we are fortunate to have Jesse Just, who has a long history with transfer station management, recycling materials, coordination, and those things, who has applied for this position and is willing to serve on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. And so, the Solid Waste Advisory Committee supports her application. Staff supports this. I would recommend that you support this request and appoint her to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. I believe Jessie was going to try to be in attendance today. I don't know if she's there in person or on the phone. I don't see.
She's with us, David. She's with us in the room. So, Jessie, would you like to come up and introduce yourself and say a few words about your experience?
Sure. Right here?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, members of the commission. Thank you. Appreciate it. David, thank you. That was a lovely introduction. It is true. I have been a Tillamook County resident for many years. I moved here in 2004 to take a job with Cardam Recycling. And I am now the executive director for Heart of Cardam, which is the continuation of that transformed organization. And I believe that waste is a resource, and I believe in managing it sustainably. And I believe that the Solid Waste Advisory Committee is a strong group of individuals who also believe that waste is a resource and want to manage that for the good of all of the residents of Tillamook County. So I'm very excited and be delighted to be appointed to this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Commissioners, questions or comments for David or Jesse?
I'm grateful that you're willing, Jesse. I was excited when your application came through. I think you're a great fit for the committee. I got to know Jesse a little bit, became acquainted with her when I became a commissioner and liaison to solid waste and through the transition of Cardam. And it's been delightful to see Cardam reborn as the Heart of Cardam and see the community love and outpouring of support for that organization. And you're doing a great job leading it. And it's clear that you have a passion for the subject. You have a passion for reuse, and I think it's a great fit. So I'm glad you want to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse, for being here with us today. It's great for you to be here. As I always say, Tillamook County cannot do without its volunteers. We wouldn't survive without our volunteers. So you represent a great organization, and we're happy, I hope, to appoint you today.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And I agree, Jesse. We really appreciate your willingness to serve on this committee. And I love the things that Cardam did and things that Heart of Cardam is doing. I was on my campus in Southern California when a very close friend of mine started the very first recycling program. And so I have had an opportunity through the years to watch some of the evolution and journey of how have we as a society walked through this reduce, reuse, recycle piece of this, and just really appreciate what Tillamook County has been able to do. And I look forward to what's next as we look at the producer accountability piece of this and how does that further extend what we can do in our rural communities. And I think having you at the table will be extremely valuable. So thank you for that.
I'm excited for the future as well. Thank you so much. I've got some plans.
Awesome. Love that. Okay, I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in the matter of the appointment of a member to the Tillamook County Solid Waste Advisory Committee, Board Order Number 23-032, Solid Waste Service District, bless you, Solid Waste Service District, Order Number 23-011, I would move approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, and thank you for being with us, Jesse. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, moving on to item number 10, discussion and consideration of a use permit agreement with the Tillamook Tennis Club for tennis court rental at the fairgrounds. Cami Von Segbred, Fairgrounds Manager. Cami, are you with us? I don't see her unless she's on the telephone. Reminder, if you're on the phone, *6 will unmute you, Cami. Okay, absent that, is there anyone who is familiar with this agreement to carry it?
I'm the liaison to the fairgrounds, and I'm happy to carry the agreement if Bill has reviewed it.
I reviewed it, Guy did, Commissioner Bill.
And it's
Pretty much a standard agreement,
Yeah.
although I must say, I don't know how to say this, it's kind of rare that I've seen a contract that the fair has been involved with, so it's kind of nice to see them come through now, maybe a little bit more than we have in the past this time.
terrific. Thank you.
Okay, any questions?
I think this is fine. I'm just browsing it as we speak, and I don't see any problems with it. But
Yeah, the fair, I think it's the girls' tennis team,
Okay.
basically, for the high school, pays the tennis court, pays a certain amount of money, relatively small, like $3,000 to the fair to use the tennis courts that they set up there. So it's really a good deal for the high school
and for the fair.
yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, it is a good resource for the community, I agree.
Yeah, perfect. No, and I think that girls tennis has had some success, in fact. I was at the awards banquet this year, and they were talking about some of their top tennis players. So, you know, we are losing our girls tennis coach in Robert Lee, which is unfortunate. He's retiring, but hopefully that program will continue to flourish.
Yeah,
So-
Aaron, like you, I can crow a little bit, not about a daughter, but about a granddaughter who was on the tennis team, and still is on the tennis team for a number of years. So
Wonderful.
She really enjoyed that, be able to participate in that sport.
Perfect.
And Grandpa liked to go watch her play.
Well, it's one of those sports that I don't think we think about as much in our high schools. You know, everybody goes to football and basketball and baseball, and you know, you might be like me, a volleyball person, but tennis tends to be a small team of just very committed individuals. Though I remember, I think it was Sage Veek that actually went to state in Tennessee. I went on to play tennis, I believe, at college. So it's a strong program, small but mighty.
Yeah, and it's I said girls, I probably should say women, really, you know, I think it's only a women's sport.
At the high school.
Oh, interesting. I think we need a hockey team. Just so everyone knows, the Las Vegas Golden Knights won the Stanley Cup last night.
Yes, they did, and I heard it was a wallop. It was like, I was unfortunately with you talking about short-term rentals, but Jim was watching, so when I got home, he said it was very exciting, and it was like 8-3 or 9-3. It was just a wallop. And in the other three they won, they were pretty resounding as well. So yeah, it was a good overall Stanley Cup series,
Yes,
and the game last night was a good topper. So yes, okay.
Madam Chair, are you ready for a motion?
Back to tennis, back to the agreement. Yes, I think we are.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In consideration of a use permit agreement with the Tillamook Tennis Club for tennis court rental at the fairgrounds, I would move approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, item number 11, discussion and consideration of a coronavirus state fiscal recovery fund grant agreement number 089-23 with Oregon Department of Environmental Quality for the repair, replacement, upgrade, or evaluation of failing or damaged residential or on-site septic systems project. Chris Keola, Environmental Program Manager. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Chris Keola, Tillamook County's Environmental Program Manager. Did you want to do an intro of this since you were involved with it from?
I certainly can, but my details will be sparse. I have the broad overview. So, it's been a year and a half or so ago, we were approached by Community Action Team, which is a nonprofit organization serving Columbia, Clatsop, and Tillamook counties that does a variety of different projects around housing, and they had the opportunity to receive these funds to repair failing septic systems. And it is a 3-county project, and they were looking for a county that was willing to serve as the financial agent for this because it had to be a county that applied. So we as a board did some quick conversation because as always with grants, there is a very limited timeline to get the application in, and agreed that this would be exceptionally useful in Tillamook County and of course across all 3 counties. But we know that, as David always says, water quality is key in Tillamook County, and having failing septics is it's a risk for our water quality. And so there are a lot of folks who are unable to afford the repair or replacement of their septic system when it fails. And as a result, we do end up with a certain number of failed septics that are out there just not functioning as they should. So this grant opportunity came through, and we as a Board of Commissioners felt that it was important enough to our county that we would be the backbone of it for the 3 counties in partnership with Community Action Team. So we are doing that, and I say we, and then we'll turn it over to Chris because we said that's a great idea. Chris, make that happen. So just delighted that our Community Development Department, specifically Chris Keola and the Environmental Program, said, yeah, it is important and we'll find a way to make it work. So thank you for taking that on.
And thank you for bringing that to us. That's why I wanted you to do the intro, because you've known about this longer than I have. It was something that was brought to us, and the details are, it's a $1.5 million grant/loan program to repair and replace failing septic systems in Tillamook, Clatsop, and Columbia counties through grants and 0% interest loans. And the loans are 0%, 30-year deferred loan. So if you get one of these, you don't have to pay it for 30 years or until you sell your home. It's tied to the home. So essentially, it could be a free system or a new system for someone that can't afford a new system. And we do have a lot of people in the county that have had marginal systems and failing systems that haven't been able to do anything because there's no money. There are certain loan programs out there through the state and another company called Craft 3, but they're not 0% interest. They're 2.5%, 3.5%, 4.5%, depending on your income level. So this way, if you fall below a certain threshold, you could get a grant to replace your system or one of these 0% 30-year deferred loans. Applications are on a first-come, first-served basis over the 3-county area. I've been meeting with the 2 other people that do what I do in Columbia and Clatsop, and though we can't control who gets the money because they apply through another agency and then we just get, those, we don't want either of the other counties rushing out of the barn before we do. So it's going to be a coordinated effort with DEQ, and that way we kind of spread the money out evenly over the 3. There's money available also to cover some of our administrative costs. I'll be doing all the permitting and inspecting. However, there is a lot of other work that will be done by other people in the county. Rachel and Sean will be doing some of the admin work on that. And I think, and you've known that from the very beginning, and they've been very involved with the details of actually writing the contract and all that stuff. So there's other parts of the county that will be involved with this, and we can get some money back to cover some of those costs on us. The money covers the permitting and the installation costs. It does not go to the homeowner. It goes directly to the permit fees will be paid to the county, and the installation costs will be directly paid to the contractor. So there's a couple installers we'll have meetings with in the 3-county area to get installers on board because they have to know that they're not going to get paid right away. There's going to be a little delay, and they're fine with that, the ones that we've talked to. The money, the permit will be issued, the work will be done, it'll be finalized and inspected and certified by us, the county, and then it'll go through the process of them getting reimbursed. So there might be a delay for them. The 3 counties will be doing an outreach and marketing program in conjunction with DEQ, so we'll be coordinating all that to make sure the word gets out. There's certain areas that we want to target. There's a couple other projects that we have going on in conjunction with this that are separate. So we want to make sure we kind of target other areas that might be more critical. But basically, we don't do the applying through the program. It's the homeowner and the landowner that has to do it. So we want to make sure that we get to the people that we know need it so they can do the paperwork and we can help them and assist them in any way. And I think we've covered it. If there are any questions, feel free to ask.
Sure, thank you for that. Questions or comments, commissioners?
Something I'm curious about is, you said $1.5 million, is that right?
Yes.
So if it were split equally, which you don't have to answer that, but assuming it was, how far will $500,000 go? How much might one of these systems cost? So I'm wondering how many?
Well, they capped each amount at $24,999.
Okay.
But there is a way, if this system costs more than that, if it's in a critical area and you need an advanced treatment system, those can get pretty spendy. Sometimes those can run upwards of $35,000, $40,000. However, most standard system repairs are generally in the $20,000 to $25,000 range. So if the bulk of them are in that, and I had the number and I can't remember, we could be doing 40 to 50 systems in this county if the money's kind of spread evenly. There's also, if someone gets one of these loans and then their home sells and then that loan gets repaid, that money will go back into the system
Oh, nice.
during the cycle. And there's certain dates and certain things have to be met, but there's a point where that gets cut off where it doesn't. But if it's an early repayment, that money goes back into the system. We have until June of 2024 to obligate all the funds, and then everything has to be done in 2026. So there's like some some metrics we have to meet, but if someone repays it, it goes back into so then we can kick that down the road to another one. So I'm hoping to get 20, 30 systems at least in this county repaired and replaced, hopefully more, but we'll see. And each of the other counties are hoping for that same amount too.
Yeah, that's great. It's a great opportunity. It's a great program.
Mhm.
When we talked about this before, 6 months ago, when we were initially looking at this program, I was remembering a neighbor of mine who's retirement age, limited income, whose septic system failed utterly, and that person couldn't afford to have it fixed, and so they just moved. So they moved, and the house sits empty. And I know there of a couple other similar situations. So in, this addresses several needs, including people on limited income who can't afford to repair their systems, but also the houses that are unusable because of broken systems.
Mhm.
So I think it's terrific.
Yeah, and there's people that I know that they don't want the government coming on their property because we'll shut them down or kick them out or whatnot. But this targets them specifically to get their system fixed without any other obligation. And we can just take care of the problem without them being ashamed of it. Sometimes that happens. They just don't know what to do about it. They don't have the money to fix it, so they just ignore it. They put plywood over it. The grass grows up. No one goes out in that area of the property. But this will give them an opportunity to get that fixed, and we can protect water quality in the county. Failing septic systems can contribute to stream and river pollution, health hazards, things like that. So it'll be a huge bonus to a lot of homeowners.
Great.
So Chris, you and I have talked about these issues over the years, and failing septics are a huge issue for all rural areas. In Tillamook County, the areas unserved by actual sewer systems is huge in rural counties, Tillamook County being one of them. And being a former realtor, I know the issues, because when you sell a house with a septic, realtors would always have to recommend a septic inspection. And invariably, there are problems with septics. So this is great. I wish the number were 100 times larger, because I know we have vast areas in Tillamook County where we have failing septics, and it's not good for the environment. It's not good for people. It is just a problem. This is a great opportunity. So, and I know you are familiar maybe with some areas that are going to be in dire need of help, and I know you're going to be concentrating on those. And I appreciate that very much, Chris.
Yes.
I really do.
And if anyone's listening, we could use $10 million.
Exactly. Exactly.
We'll take what we can get. I mean,
Exactly.
the more we take off the grid and fix, the better we are.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for your work on this. This is terrific. It is.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I think this is a great opportunity. Are we still partnering with Tillamook Estuaries Partnership to do some water sampling in the areas to see if we can see any changes to this? Do you know if that?
They are doing, it's a side project.
Yeah.
Yes, they are focusing on the Mill Creek area right now. I think they took a small piece to kind of do a test project. So we'll be working on that one kind of separate, and there's another pool of money to help fix systems in that localized area. So we're starting to get these funds where we can actually go out and target areas that have critical old systems, failing systems that are on critical waterways that we can start fixing.
Which I think is a really, it was one of the things that when we started talking about this project, and I was talking to Community Action Team, and somehow we got into the fact that Tillamook Estuaries Partnership does water sampling already in our waterways, and looks for the things that you would see coming out of a failing septic, right? And they got so excited to realize that we could actually have the ability to not only do this because it's the right thing to do for people that need it, not only because we believe that it impacts our water quality, but that we could actually measure the change and improvement to our water quality based on being able to repair and replace some of these critical systems. So I thought that was a really, just an interesting piece of it. Hopefully will lead to the $10 million that we have just put out to the universe that we're looking for, because we will be able to not only say we believe this helped, we will be able to show that this had an actual impact on waterways and critical waterways in our county. So just a great project. And again, I thank you. I know that when we talked about it initially, it was like, yes, I don't have a whole bunch of extra time, and I will find a way to make this work because it's important. So I appreciate your commitment and your willingness to take on another thing.
Thanks.
So.
Well, and the main thing is there's other people in the county that'll be doing all the detail work, the field work, and
And he looks at.
So we thank Sean and Rachel as well for their willingness to take it on, and I'm pleased that with Community Action Team, I believe they will be doing much of the reporting and those details as well. So it does end up being not all on your plate and not all on any one person's plate. So I think that's a great opportunity. Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Fund Grant Agreement number 089-23 with the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality for the repair, replacement, upgrade, or evaluation of failing or damaged residential or on-site septic systems project, I would move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you
And the
very much.
citizens will thank you too.
All right. So if you're listening,
Yes.
reach out. Okay. Item number 12, discussion and consideration of modification number 7 to personal services agreement number 4780 with Liftoff LLC for the Office 365 project. Jeff Underwood, Interim Director of Information Services. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Underwood, Interim Information Services Director for the record. The item before you this morning is just our annual Office 365 renewal. Price speaks up a little bit every year as we add more people need the service. This year it is $78,216 for the next fiscal year. I will note right now, we are in the final year of our 3-year price lock. And when we submitted the renewal, I was informed that there has been a price increase. So come December, I will get those updated prices so that we can make sure that we get enough money in the next fiscal year's budget to cover that change. I don't think it's nearly as significant as this last price increase was, which was close to 50%, but there will be something more coming next year, but unfortunately that's just the cost of doing business.
That is true. Okay. Questions or comments, Commissioners?
Cost of doing business, and this county does a lot of business.
That is true.
Something that we need. Thank you for your work on this, Jeff.
Yeah, I agree. IT is just a necessary, I was going to say, because they're evil. I'm not sure if it's evil, but sometimes it feels like. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and we were talking about how it used to be the amount of work you did was driven a lot by your communication, which was things like a letter that you put in the mail, and then you would get something back, right? Or, maybe it was a telephone call. Now it is an email, and you can get them at, 100 in an hour that's driving your workload. So that's why I say necessary evil. So, because sometimes I think it might be. All right, I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of modification number 7 to personal services agreement number 4780 with Liftoff LLC for the Office 365 project, I would move approval.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, before we jump into the next item, because I think it might be somewhat of an extended discussion, I would like to take just a brief 5-minute recess so that we can all grab a fresh cup of tea and be ready for the conversation. So we will recess at 9:54, returning at 10. We'll take 6 minutes. We are recessed.